What's up guys, my name is Stoody and I'd like to welcome you all back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my round 3 tips for the 2023 AFL season. Now before we get into the tips, let's have a look and see how I went last week. So last week I got 6 out of 9 tips correct. So that means I have 13 tips correct for the season. Now I'm going to go through what tips I got correct and incorrect last week. I tipped Brisbane to beat Melbourne. I tipped Collingwood to beat Port Adelaide. I tipped Richmond to beat Adelaide. I tipped Sydney to beat Hawthorn. I tipped Essendon to beat Gold Coast. And I also tipped West Coast to defeat GWS Giants. Now the 3 tips I got incorrect are that I tipped Geelong to beat Carlton. I tipped the Western Bulldogs to beat St Kilda. And I also tipped Fremantle to beat North Melbourne. So a couple of big upsets there that everyone would have got wrong, I'd say. The only people that got it right were obviously severely biased towards their own team. The Carlton Geelong one was always 50-50, but 80% of people leant towards Geelong, it seemed. I was one of them. I almost tipped Carlton. I took the safe option, so it shouldn't hurt me too much because most people would have tipped Geelong anyway. And as a result, I am on top of my tipping competition. Now let's just get into this week's tips. So on Thursday night, we have the Western Bulldogs taking on Brisbane at Marvel Stadium. I'm going to be tipping Brisbane in this one by 21 points. The Lions got on the board last week against Melbourne. A lot of people tipped Melbourne to win that, but I got that one correct, tipping Brisbane. Brisbane are a really good side this year, and I'm expecting them to have no problems against the really struggling Dogs, who couldn't even beat St Kilda. In fact, got smashed against them, and were obviously no match against Melbourne, and Brisbane just beat Melbourne. So I think Western Bulldogs might struggle against the Lions. It is at the Bulldogs' home ground, so I do think the Bulldogs will be competitive, but I think Brisbane should get the chocolates in this one. Moving on to Friday night, we have Collingwood taking on Richmond at the MCG. Now this one is a 50-50 one. Obviously Collingwood are in some really good form, smashing Port Adelaide and also getting the win against Geelong. Richmond and Collingwood pretty much have the same sort of game style. Craig McRae actually copied it off of Richmond because Craig McRae used to actually be at Richmond. I did recently hear Craig McRae running his mouth saying that we're not as passionate as Collingwood fans, when Collingwood fans literally are bandwagoners. Like, is he all there in their head or what? So to be honest, fuck Craig McRae. However, when it comes to the tipping, obviously Collingwood in some really good form. So I am going to tip them. I will tip them by 18 points to win this game. But obviously, I hope that doesn't happen. And the reason why I'm tipping them, obviously Collingwood are a lot better than we all expected. Also, Collingwood will be protected by the umpires. We can pretty much guarantee that. If you guys saw the matches last week, it's pretty obvious that the AFL are definitely going to want Collingwood really deep in the finals, so Collingwood to be protected by the umpires and get the win. Moving on to the Saturday early game, we have Hawthorn taking on North Melbourne in Launceston. I'm going to be tipping North Melbourne in this one by 28 points. North Melbourne are 2-0. Can you believe it? How in the hell did they beat Fremantle last week? I don't know, but Fremantle have some serious issues, but this is about North Melbourne. North Melbourne, they're versing the worst team in the league, Hawthorn. So they're probably going to be 3-0. Think about that. North Melbourne 3-0. Like, what the hell? And Hawthorn, they're really bad. Like, very, very bad. Like, demolished against Sydney. To be fair, I can see Hawthorn getting up for this game and beating North, but at the same time, Alistair Clarkson is facing his old side. I don't think he's going to allow his old side to beat him. So just got to go North in this one, I think. Saturday twilight, we have the GWS Giants taking on Carlton at Giants Stadium. GWS lost to West Coast, although I did predict them to lose to West Coast. They lost a lot worse than I expected them to. Carlton, obviously, beating Geelong. They're going to be full of confidence. I'm going to be tipping Carlton in this one by 26 points. I think they should be able to get over the line pretty comfortably against the Giants, who I guess they're in a rebuilding phase, whereas Carlton will be looking to contend this year as they are a pretty good team now. So I feel like this tip is pretty straightforward. Moving on to Saturday night, we have St Kilda taking on Essendon at the MCG for some fucking reason, even though it's St Kilda's home game. Bizarre. What is going on there? Really, it should be Essendon's home game, but fucking whatever. So I'm going to be between St Kilda in this one by 13 points. You know, this game can go either way, I feel. But St Kilda have beaten two really good teams. Like, they've beaten Fremantle and then they beat the Western Bulldogs, who both those teams obviously severely underperforming, but still St Kilda beat them, which I feel is a lot more impressive than Essendon, you know, beating up on the worst team in the league and then beating Gold Coast kind of narrowly. And Gold Coast are a team who I think will struggle this year. So I'm just more impressed by what St Kilda's done so far. That's why I'm tipping St Kilda to win this one. The other Saturday night game, we have Port Adelaide taking on Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. It is the showdown, and I'm expecting this to be a tight one, you know. Adelaide 0-2, and Port Adelaide just got absolutely destroyed against Collingwood. You know, Adelaide won in the showdown last year. I'm going to be picking Port Adelaide in this simply because I think they're the clear better team, but only just. I'm going to tip them by 7 points. This is going to be a close one, I think. It's just one of those blockbuster games where it's just always a tight one no matter what the ladder position is. So, going to tip Port, but in a close one. Moving on to Sunday, we have the Gold Coast Suns taking on Geelong at Metricon Stadium. Now, I'm going to be tipping Geelong in this one by 22 points. I can easily see an upset happening in this one because the Gold Coast have had the wood over Geelong, especially at Metricon in recent years. However, I do believe Geelong kind of beat them pretty badly there last year, so I'm going to go Geelong. It's the safer option. Plus Geelong 0-2, they're going to be really desperate. Pretty embarrassing to be 0-2 if you're the apparent premiers. Geelong certainly didn't deserve to win the premiership, and I think the fact that they're 0-2 shows what quality of a team they really are. But I think they should beat the Suns. They are better than the Suns. The other Sunday afternoon game, we have Melbourne taking on Sydney at the MCG. Now this one is another one that can go either way. So Sydney are on top of the ladder after destroying a couple of bad teams, whereas Melbourne 1-1, you know, after playing some tougher games. Now Sydney do have the wood over Melbourne. I believe Sydney beat Melbourne at the MCG twice last year, including the qualifying final. However, I do rate Melbourne quite a lot this year. I do think Gawn is going to be out for a little bit, but they still have Grundy, so it's all good. I'm going to tip Melbourne to win this one by 13 points. I think they're a better team than Sydney this year. I think they'll break that hoodoo and they'll go on to beat the Swans. Sunday twilight, we have Fremantle taking on the West Coast Eagles at Optus Stadium. It is the Western Derby. I'm going to be tipping Fremantle to win this one by 42 points. Like, what the fuck happened to Fremantle last week? I wasn't watching that game. I was watching St Kilda and the Bulldogs, which was rigged, by the way. It was pretty obvious that the umpires were favouring St Kilda. I'm surely the Fremantle North Melbourne game was rigged as well. There's no fucking way. Like, that could not have been rigged. But anyway, you'd think Fremantle, they're a premiership contender. They should be able to easily account for the Eagles. Even though they won last week, I still think they're freaking awful. For some reason, 21% have actually tipped West Coast. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? Just because Fremantle lost a game to North Melbourne, who are definitely fucking better than West Coast, does not mean they're actually going to lose to West Coast. Yeah, Fremantle should go on and get their first win of the season right here. But anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Be sure to click the thumbs up button and leave a like on this video. Also, be sure to join my Discord server. It is called Australian Sports Community. Link to that is in the description. Also, be sure to subscribe to my other YouTube channel. It is called Stoody Archives. Link to that is also in the description. Also, be sure to follow me on my other social media accounts. I have Instagram, I have Twitter, and I also have TikTok. The username for all of those is StoodyYT. The links to all of those will also be in the description. I hope you had a good day, and I'll see you all in the next video.